Antibiotics, we've all had them at some point, but did you really need them? More commonly, patients expect to be prescribed the drug just for a simple cough or cold, but research has shown that only 10% of sore throats and 20% of sinus problems actually benefit from an antibiotic treatment, and the overprescribing of antibiotics could be doing us more harm than good.
Well, antibiotics are brilliant drugs. They've revolutionised healthcare over the last 60 or 70 years since they were invented. But there are some quite considerable dangers at the moment. As many people realise, lots of bacteria are now becoming resistant to the drugs that we use. And if this were to continue, it would mean a very bad revolution in the way we can treat people. And so at the moment, complex operations, chemotherapy are all covered by antibiotics, so they're very safe. And many conditions which in the past, such as pneumonia or TB, meningitis, all these horrendous diseases are now often very curable. But if this antibiotic resistance was to continue, we might go back into the dark ages of the 1920s and 1930s, where we actually dived from trivial diseases and these complex procedures were no longer possible or safe. It's a population-based effect, and by taking antibiotics when we don't need them, we're overusing and abusing a very, very valuable resource. When you talk about antibiotic resistance, people tend to think about the fact that they're resistant to the antibiotics, but that's not the case. It's the germs themselves that are becoming resistant.
Many patients also miss doses of their prescription or even fail to finish their course of antibiotics, and this too is adding to the problem. But how do we begin to address this issue and ensure the effectiveness of our antibiotics in the future?
And I think both patients and doctors are guilty of not actually facing up to this particular problem. Our patients are probably partially guilty because they're maybe pushing for treatment that in their heart of hearts they know they don't really need, and probably are not going to finish the course anyway because they're going to get better anyway. And probably we as doctors are probably guilty by going along with it and not saying, hang on a second, this is a viral infection, you really don't need this. There's all sorts of side effects that you might get, and for the good of the whole population, it's a really bad thing to do. So we've got to, as doctors, we've got to be a little bit firmer and perhaps explain things a bit better, because it's quite a complicated idea to get across. And the more information we can give to people so that they realise when they need treatment and when they don't, the better.
25,000 people die in Europe every year from infections resistant to antibiotics. It's becoming one of the biggest health threats facing us today. To raise awareness, Public Health England have established an antibiotic guardian campaign, and GP practices are urging their staff and the general public to sign up.
It's quite difficult to raise awareness. I mean, this campaign has been going on for a number of years, and people's awareness of the problem hasn't really changed. So it's a good thing that something slightly new is being tried. Anything that we can do to raise awareness about this problem, to make people think twice. Do I need antibiotics? Actually, it's just a cough. It's just a bit of a cold. What I need is some paracetamol. I could pop down to the chemist and buy some over the counter. Just the very fact they might discuss it with their friends or their family, it is quite important so that we can change the way that we behave with this particular type of treatment.
Antibiotics are used to treat humans and animals, and the campaign aims to get both healthcare professionals and members of the public to work together to ensure the future of one of our most valued drugs. Lois Swinnerton for the Midland in Harborne.